We would like to welcome our keynote speaker, Mrs. Mama Fatima Singhateh. She is the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the sale and sexual exploitation of children. She is joining us today. We're very pleased to have her, and she is a renowned lawyer, politician, and judge with nearly 20 years of experience. The Honorable Singhateh currently serves as a consultant on human rights and legal reform. She's held numerous notable roles in the High Court and the Court of Appeals of the country of Gambia, and she's joining us from Gambia. She's formerly served as the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of Gambia. During her work at the Ministry of Justice, Ms. Singhateh led the Child's Rights Unit and advocated for the promotion of the rights of girl child, and she's overseeing the drafting of legislation criminalizing female genital mutilation and child marriage. These are important initiatives. Ms. Singhateh has also served as a project coordinator within the Ministry for the UNICEF government of the Gambia Country Program of Cooperation. Clearly, she's very expertise in what she'll be presenting today. And so we would like to welcome and invite her to join us, and thank you for your remarks. You now have the floor.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm happy to be here. I read recently a harrowing news report of a 12-year-old girl from a religious minority who was allegedly kidnapped, forced to marry her abductor, and forcefully converted to another religion. As the Special Rapporteur on the sale and sexual exploitation of children, I find it very disturbing that any person, let alone a child, can be abducted, forcefully married, and/or converted to another religion under duress with impunity. UNICEF estimates that at least 12 million girls are married off before the age of 18 years, which translates to 28 girls per minute. We know that early and forced marriages of children is a violation of human rights. It prevents children from living their lives free from all forms of violence with wide-ranging and adverse consequences, because child marriage disproportionately affects girls. It compromises a girl's development by resulting to early pregnancy and social isolation, interrupting her schooling and limiting her opportunities for career and vocational advancement. We also know that it occurs for a number of reasons, including gender inequality, poverty, insecurity, and tradition. International legal instruments such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women provide a cornerstone in the fight to highlight child marriage as an abuse of human rights. Yet, the process of early and forced child marriage has proven extremely difficult to eradicate, since it is a problem that stems from several intersecting socioeconomic and cultural factors, and is therefore deeply embedded in some communities. Compounding this problem is the disturbing phenomena of forced conversion of girls from minority groups. Conversion is an absolute right, of course, that any person can freely convert from one religion to another or convert back at any time he or she decides. Any person can also decide not to adopt any religion or belief. But when conversion is made under duress, it becomes a violation of human rights. International law prohibits any form of coercion that would impair the right to have or adopt a religion or belief, including the use of threat of physical force or penal sanction to compel believers or non-believers to adhere to their religious beliefs and congregation, to recant their religion or belief, or to convert. This includes policies and practices having the same intentional effect, such as, for example, those restricting access to education, medical care, employment, or other rights. A girl who is a double victim of forced marriage and forced conversion may experience conditions inside the marriage which meet international legal definition of slavery and slavery-like practices, including servile marriage, sexual slavery, child servitude, child trafficking, and forced labor. In the 2009 report of the Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Religion and Belief to the General Assembly, it was documented that girls were allegedly abducted by members of a different religious community, forced into marriage, and forcefully converted. The Special Rapporteur then emphasized on the fact that no one should be subject to coercion which would impair his or her freedom to have or adopt a religion or belief his or her choice, and that the betrothal or marriage of a child shall have no effect. International legal instruments such as the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the 1981 Declaration on the Elimination of All Forms of Intolerance and Discrimination based on religion or belief on this issue are very clear. The right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion protects, without discrimination, the right to have or to adopt or to change a religion or belief of one's choice. Unconditional freedom from coercion, the right to manifest one's religion or belief either individually or in a community with others, and parents and guardians to provide a religious and moral education for their children in accordance with their conviction and the evolving capacity of the child. Other than the gross violation of international human rights law, conversion under duress to any religion not only affects the child psychologically and emotionally, but it also is disruptive to religious harmony and peaceful coexistence within communities, and this fosters violence and unrest. The Convention on the Rights of the Child, which is one of the most widely ratified international treaties, is very clear on the need to protect children from all forms of physical or mental violence, injury or abuse, neglect or negligent treatment, maltreatment or exploitation, including sexual abuse. The protection of children is everybody's responsibility, especially state parties to this convention, and the protection should be absolute, irrespective of who the child is and what minority group she belongs to. Furthermore, the Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Religion and Belief in his 2020 report to the General Assembly aptly posited that, and I quote, "The people most likely to be left behind by development are often those who endure discrimination and exclusion on the grounds of identity, often multiple identities, including religious or belief identity. Such discrimination can be particularly acute in situations where persons identify with a religion or belief group that is numerically inferior to the rest of the population and or in a non-dominant position in a given society." End quote. This statement could not be stressed more in these circumstances. That is why it is imperative that governments and state parties to the aforementioned international legal instrument enact laws that criminalize forced conversion through forced marriages of children. At this juncture, I would like to thank Jubilee Campaign for organizing this event to shine a light on these horrifying crimes perpetuated against minority women and girls, to inter alia help policymakers and others understand the vulnerability religious and ethnic minority women face, and in so doing, provide recommendations on how to address them. Given, however, the nature of these crimes, legislation alone may not be sufficient to address this problem. Data collection is a necessity to determine the extent of the problem to enable targeted intervention. Raising awareness and education is also key to promote tolerance and tackling discrimination against religious minorities. Again, with reference to the Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Religion and Belief, his report in 2020 proposes structural indicators to appraise the extent of which legal and institutional frameworks within a state incorporate international human rights obligation and can be indicative of discrimination. He suggests that the process indicators should enable verification of states' effort to operationalize its human rights commitment by way of policies, procedures, and practices, which makes it possible to examine the state's exercise of its duty beyond lawmaking to include, for example, the accessibility and inclusivity of mechanisms for right holders to report violations of human rights, the provision of human rights training to state officials, or government support for relevant non-state actors who have a role in implementing human rights. Protecting freedom of religion or belief and eliminating discrimination in practice, according to the Special Rapporteur, may also require special measures in programming and capacity building to address the specific concerns and needs of individuals and groups who exist at the margins, such as the minority, religious, or belief communities. In light of the above, Madam Chairperson, my mandate will reach out to the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on Religion and Belief to support advocacy effort to stem child and forced marriages and conversion of minority women and girls. I look forward to a very fruitful deliberation on this very, very important topic. Thank you all for your kind attention.
Honorable Singhateh, that was an amazingly well done presentation. We are so pleased that you've put forward all these excellent description and analysis of international law and international legal standards. Clearly, the situation for girls who have found themselves to be abducted, their plight must be featured internationally, and we're so grateful that you're working with your counterparts, such as the Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Religion and other counterparts within the United Nations mechanisms to take up their plight and to ensure that they are not left vulnerable, and that eventually countries will, we need to put, and we have to continue to put pressure on countries to bring to the local level efforts to stop forced marriage, forced conversions, and to end the vulnerabilities that and insecurities that the girls at these levels have. So thank you for bringing it to the local level and to working with countries where communities are continuing to hopefully be educated. We want to make sure that no one is left behind, and we appreciate your presentation today. We look forward to cooperating with you in the future as we feature these issues. So thank you for your time today. I'm aware that you have another engagement to attend to, and we appreciate and are grateful for your participation in our event. Thank you so much, and yeah, we're grateful.